Hello, internet world. Rushi here. A dear friend of mine, we're doing a trade sessions with each other, and what came through her for me recently was that I would be a really wonderful idea for my own healing process, to start sharing about my experiences and perspectives with death and dying. So immediately when she said that, all the things started coming up. So I was like, okay, all right, I guess I need to do that. So I'm gonna start right now, and I don't exactly know where I'm gonna go with it, but I think, just start from a very historical storytelling history perspective and see what comes out. So this is kind of just the general historical version of my perspective of my life so far, I suppose. So my journey with death and dying began before I was conceived, actually. If we're talking specifically just about this lifetime, my father was diagnosed with cancer shortly before I was conceived, and his most likely death window was when I was about 2 or 3 years old. He did not take that death window. He stayed around till I was 16, and that's a whole story in and of itself that could probably be a video around father's love for his daughter and how that can keep one on the planet. And I'm sure there will be a whole video on my healing journey with that, and how both as a child losing a parent or their source of love, without the kind of support that the child needs to process what she is processing, there can be a lot of different kinds of reactions to that. My reaction was completely shutting off and numbing out for about a decade. And there's about 500 stories in here. I don't know where to go with any of them. There's a lot. All right, so I guess that would be yeah, okay. So I miss my dad a lot, still. But I'm feeling it's more shifted to Divine Father at this point. Even the other day during a theta healing session, there was this 7-year-old had been coming up in my consciousness a lot, and that was one of the many moments I think she discovered that her father was gonna leave. He was gonna leave body, and didn't know what that meant. And what that had come up again. That's come up many times. There was many points in time in which she had that realization, and there were different, by she I mean I, at various time points had the realization that my father was going to leave out of his body, and we went through the whole me trying to keep him on the planet and my sense of worth being tied to keeping him on the planet, my sense of worth as a healer being tied to keep him healthy and on the planet, because he was my source of love. He was my like external, he was like God, right? And he was my source of survival. And so it was like imperative to my life to keep this person on the planet. Or such was the perspective at the time, of course, because you're a child. And so the 7-year-old with this recent theta healing, she source brought in the perspective of just needing to let go of an infinity loop between me and my biological father. I don't, it's like when I do theta healing at this point, I've kind of learned to let go of the story of needing to like dive into a whole lot of the story of what it is that needs to be let go of and cleaned up in order to do the letting go of. There's still some times in which I really need to feel something in my body and move through a story with it. But mostly when doing theta healing, we've come to the point where I get just enough information so I can switch whatever thing needs to be quickly changed that's still being held in the cellular memory somewhere. So there is an infinity loop going on, probably over many lifetimes, between me and Michael Hendricks, and so we dissolved that. And that was, one of about 100 things that happened during this very well supported 1-hour theta healing. And there's been, so I would say my perspective on healing from perceived loss, as someone on a very conscious healing journey, is that it's a journey that keeps going. Yeah. That grief is super not linear. That there, especially if you're losing someone as a child, there is a lot of programming that goes along with that, right? Especially if, this person is getting sick before you are even entering in, and then is sick off and on with potential for him to leave at any time, off and on, until, he finally does, and then shock, overwhelm, shut off. 10 years later, we start waking up, and there's a lot to process. So be gentle. If you know anyone that is healing from I say perceived loss because I think of it now more as change of relationship, because we haven't really lost anything. Like the Michael Hendricks character is one of my guardian angels. It's not, my intuitive capacities are not currently at a point where I can have a full-on conversation with this person, but I know that he's there, and I don't actually choose to interact with him all that often, even though he was a main source of love and survival, that was like the core part of this life of me's programmings came through those experiences. It's the healing has been about me, right? and what I needed to do to heal through my own sense of worth in losing him. And this is very non-linear talk here. I apologize for that. Or was I saying? So I'm saying be gentle with yourself if you have lost, or so perceived loss. I'm saying perceived loss because in my experience now, there is not really been a loss. It's a change of relationship, because this person that has left the body has just left the body. What, I guess, if you want to think about a loss, you could think about you've lost the physical relationship with this person. You then could choose to, through intuitive capacities, have a relationship in which you are still feeling that person with your physical body. You're just not feeling another physical body, right? And they can still be, like, all of your guides and guardian angels are part of your physical experience. They're helping you in your physical life. It just looks different because not all of us are in places where we have chosen to have the kind of intuitive capacities where we're having those really crystal clear conversations or clairvoyant visions of our loved ones, whoever has passed over the veil. So it feels like a loss. But that's why I say perceived loss, because nothing was ever actually lost, right? They're just not in their body anymore. They're still, right there whenever you need them to be, and and your grief ties them to you. And that was another healing point, one of thousands of healing points of when I realized my grief was literally holding him here like a tie, having to forgive myself for holding someone here that is not necessarily against their will necessarily, it's I'm not going to explain that right now, but anyway, the healing of forgiving myself for holding this person here, tying this person to the earth plane in any way by my intense attachments to this person. And then also still having an aspect that is like, oh yeah, well, I miss this person a lot. This person is like my life force is tied to this person. Of course I'm going to hold on to my grief because it keeps him here. It keeps him with me somehow. Like, that's comforting. That was comforting to a part of me. So point there, super multifaceted healing journey that there's a lot of self-compassion and self-forgiveness for when you get into all the nitty-gritty of the quantum perspective of what's happening between you and the being that has crossed over. There's just a lot there, and so be gentle. I guess the thing that I keep wanting to say in this first, we'll call it a vlog, we'll call it Death and Dragons. Dragons could be like facing your demons, could be the dragon ride that you're going on with your grief or the death and dying process. Dragons could be representing the multi-dimensional perspective of death and dying. We'll just call it Death and Dragons. It's a vlog. That's for my first thing and very disorganized, and that's okay. It's beautiful. I love myself. And something I get to work on, making things more organized, because I've got a lot of Virgo energy and I like to organize things. So we'll see how this goes in the future. But I feel like the energy with this is wrapping up. So thank you for listening. If you've decided to listen, and be gentle. If you have a perception that you have lost anything, or your relationship with something has changed and you are going through a grief process, whatever that looks like for you, just know that there is so much involved, and so much more involved than you could possibly figure out in one sitting or a year, or there's just a lot. So, and it's okay. It's just, we're humans, and it's a multidimensional process, and be gentle and love yourself, because I do. Right. That's all.